Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. In case you didn't know, my name is Riley Evans. My channel is about all things fitness, health, nutrition related, all from a 100% body positive perspective. No intro today, we're getting right into business because your boy be fired up. Your boy's not happy about something, and I got some stuff to get off my chest. What are we talking about today? We are talking about, give me a moment as I dig around in my bag of tricks. These guys, lifting straps. And the question is to whether or not you should use them. Now, for those of you wondering, Riley, I bought a gym membership for the first time 2 weeks before the pandemic. It closed down. I've barely gotten started on my fitness journey. What are lifting straps? Well, essentially, what lifting straps are a tool or implement that you can use in order to eliminate your hands and your grip strength from a particular lift. See, essentially what you do is you pop these on here and please stand by. Oh my God, this feels so heavy. I missed the gym. You pop the strap on your wrist like so, pull it tight, and then on the loose end of the strap, you wrap around the handle of your dumbbell, like so, twist it around until it's tight, and then voila. The strap is carrying much, if not almost all of the weight of the dumbbell itself, so that your hands are only supporting and keeping the weight in place, allowing you to put the entirety almost of the weight of the exercise on the target muscles. Oh my God. Now, you'll most often find wrist straps used in major compound pulling exercises. Particularly the deadlift is a big one where you see a lot of wrist straps, but oftentimes you'll see them with rowing or even vertical pulls, pull-ups, and things like that. Again, eliminate your grip strength as a factor from the exercise and allowing you to put the maximum load on the target musculature. So, why am I talking about wrist straps? Well, I was listening to a podcast just last night, and I'm not going to name the podcast because these gentlemen in question have shown over the course of time to bring a lot of value to me, so I don't want to put them on blast too bad. But the general consensus that they came to on the subject of wrist straps is if your grip isn't strong enough to support a weight, then that weight is too heavy for you to lift. And you should, as a result, never use wrist straps. These, gone. Never use them. I've got a lot of problems with that. Now, first of all, as you can tell, I'm clearly pro wrist strap. I'll get into the specifics of my positions on wrist straps in a moment, but in general, I do think that they're a totally valid fitness implement that you can take and use to enhance your resistance training practices. First of all due respect to these guys who will not be named, if you work in the fitness industry, if you are a professional or somebody who's intellectually involved in the fitness industry, and you say the words never in some sort of media that you put out in regards to a particular practice that's saying that people should never undertake it, I'm pressing pause on your video, I'm clicking the big X in the corner, and I'm not watching the rest of it because you don't know what you're talking about. The reality is that we see such a dramatic range of biomechanical factors in different humans because we're so genetically different that there are zero hard and fast should or should not rules in fitness. Now, back into the subject of wrist straps. These particular gentlemen said, if it's too heavy for you to lift with your bare hands, it's too heavy for you to lift, period. Therefore, never use wrist straps. I think the larger question that you need to ask when you're talking about the subject of wrist straps is, what are your goals? And to further break that down, you kind of have to separate the question into two different groups. Strength sport athletes, basically powerlifters, Olympic lifters, and strongman competitors, and then the rest of athletes and the general population. If you're a strength athlete, the question you have to ask yourself is, does that federation permit the use of lifting straps? If the answer is yes, then absolutely you should be training with lifting straps, right? Why would you be denying yourself all of the available implements that you can use in order to make yourself as competitive as possible within the sport? If the answer is no, your federation doesn't permit the use of lifting straps, then no, you shouldn't be using them because you need to be practicing in order to optimally perform under the rules and regulations of the competition that you're going to be in. And if you spend all your time training with lifting straps and you're not allowed to do it on competition day, your grip is going to fail you when you attempt your heavier lifts. Now, more importantly is the second group, which is the rest of the athletic spectrum, and then people in the general population, people who aren't necessarily athletically inclined, but are using resistance training in order to enhance their regular day-to-day experience. Become stronger, make doing your average everyday tasks easier. Obviously, grip strength is the one downside to using lifting straps, because since you're supporting most of the weight of whatever implement you're holding with the straps as opposed to your forearms and your hands and the grip itself, it doesn't allow for your grip strength to scale up at the same rate as the rest of your body does. Now, for most athletes outside of strength sports, your grip strength is important, but I would argue for most people it is not as important of a goal as your general body's ability to project force. For an example, I play touch rugby. I have to be fast, explosive, and as elusive as possible in order to avoid being touched. That's the primary, most important goal of my training, is to build speed, quickness, and the ability to change direction and be elusive. That's goal number one for me. We already know that lower body strength and power, which is the ability to quickly and efficiently project strength, is the most important to me. So in my sport, how relevant is my grip strength? Well, my hands need to be strong enough to catch a ball that's being thrown at varying rates of speed in my direction. It's not as difficult to catch as a football, but it's important that I have sure hands in order to make sure that I can receive and make passes. So grip strength is important to a degree, but based on the velocity of the ball is being come to and the fact that it's being positioned specifically for me to be able to catch it as easily as possible, that grip strength doesn't need to scale up at the same rate as my lower body explosiveness and power. Therefore, it makes sense for me to use wrist straps or lifting straps in order to allow myself to, in my pulling movements, lift as much weight as I can with good technique and not be limited by my grip strength, because my grip strength just doesn't need to scale up at the same rate as the rest of my body does. Now, if you're not necessarily an athlete, you're just either somebody trying to get stronger for day-to-day life or you're a recreational lifter, again, it depends on your goals. If you're doing these lower body pulling movements like a deadlift to make you better at picking things up off the ground in day-to-day life situations, you're not going to be having to pull 400, 500, 600 pounds in order to do that and maintain the levels of strength that you need. Additionally, you're going to have to be able to grip things in order to lift them up off the ground in day-to-day life. You're not going to be able to rely upon the support of wrist straps in order to do that. This being the case, because you don't need to be able to lift 400, 500, 600 pounds in the course of everyday life, it doesn't necessarily make sense unless you enjoy scaling up and challenging yourself in weights to be putting that much stress on your joints and on your body at the same time as you're limiting your grip strength's ability to actually grasp and pick things up like it will in real life. So maybe for somebody who's just training for everyday function, it doesn't make as much sense to use wrist straps. Unless, of course, you just enjoy the recreational process of training and you want to keep pushing weights up and up and up to challenge yourself. In which case, whether or not you use wrist straps and whether or not that factors into how much you want to be able to lift, that's up to you. In fact, I feel so strongly that wrist straps, lifting straps, whatever you want to call them, are a valuable and useful implement for the training process, given my goals, that I've actually invested. I haven't got to use them yet because they actually came during quarantine, but I have these babies. These are called lifting hooks. How you use lifting hooks is you take the Velcro strap, you wrap it around your wrist and you pull it tight, and then you allow the dumbbell or the barbell weight to sit in a solid metal hook, which even further takes your grip out of the context of the lift. What I really like and what I'm excited about is how it's going to be able to help me regulate my rest times between lifts. Because let's say I'm doing heavy deadlifts off the floor, and I know I want to wait 3 minutes in between sets in order to give my body a chance to recover and be able to complete the sets again. So I get into position and I start putting on my regular lifting straps, but it takes me longer than I intended in order to really get the lifting strap on tightly and be comfortable with my grip. Therefore, I'm no longer having a consistent, regulated rest period in between the sets. It's actually becoming longer than I've intended. What these guys do is they eliminate the requirement for me to actually finagle and tighten the straps around the bar, because the bar just sits inside a solid steel hook, which even further eliminates my grip from the context of the lift. Now, does this mean that I'll have to do other things in order to make sure that my grip strength maintains a certain amount of integrity? Yes, but it's worth it for me for all the benefits I'm gonna get on my heavier lifts that I'm trying to take my grip out of anyways. Long story short, and I've gone on a little bit. First of all, in general, if anybody tells you that you should never do a specific thing within the context of fitness or nutrition or health in general, they don't know what they're talking about. Do your own research into it. Make a decision that is right regarding that specific thing for yourself. Make the decision that's right for you. Second of all, lifting straps are a completely valid and useful implement for the use in resistance training, dependent upon your goals. If your goals do not require your grip strength to be in line and scaling up with the rest of the strength of your body, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using wrist straps to allow you to lift things with the target muscles that your grip strength would otherwise be the limiting factor on. And don't let people psych you out with their macho, testosterone, bullshit, whatever, from using assisting devices and implements that are going to make your lifting experience and your lifting process more in line with meeting your goals. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you think you got anything out of it, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share it along with somebody else who's been told that if you can't grip it, you can't lift it. Okay? Don't be afraid to use lifting straps. I've been Riley Evans. I'll see y'all later. Love ya.